Gucci. We all know it, we all see it, on our belts, on our handbags, face one of the largest accusations of culture appropriation, seeing brand losses such as never before. Gucci, along with many other fashion brands, have had trouble finding the line between cultural inspiration and appropriation. However, the line between the two have been blurred. Today, I will be analyzing that blurred line between cultural inspiration and appropriation. The presentation outline is as follows. I'll first start off outlining my connection to the stimulus, then explain the growing issue of culture appropriation, leading to my research question, stating my findings and proposed solution, and ending with its benefits and limitations. From the stimulus material, I connected both the namesake and the ultra-fast fashion article. The namesake had clear themes of cultural appreciation and diversity, while the fast fashion article spoke about the fashion industry and emerging trends. I connected these two stimuli to come to my topic of culture appropriation in the fashion industry. With culture appropriation scandals making the headlines of news, it is important to understand what culture appropriation is and the issues surrounding it. But what is the difference between cultural inspiration and appropriation? Bruce Ziff, a law professor at the University of Alberta, defines cultural appropriation as the taking from a culture that is not one's own of intellectual property, cultural expressions or artifacts, history, and ways of knowledge. In comparison, Lainey Alsplat, a graduated Elon University student, defines cultural inspiration as a term describing the positive interest in learning and appreciating a diverse brand, using it as an homage in a respectful manner. With endless amounts of definitions, society still fails to realize the difference between cultural inspiration and appropriation, and finds itself constantly reducing cultures to fashion trends. For example, the bindi, an incredibly meaningful symbol in Hinduism for marriage and status, was reduced to a new festival trend in Coachella in 2015, stripping away any cultural significance from the artifact. With the increase in cultural appropriation scandals comes with the uprise of cultural sensitivity amongst Generation Z, where 83% of shoppers would lean away from brands with bad reputations, and 47.5% have stopped purchasing from a specific brand due to its stance on social issues. Ultimately, the societal unsettlement between the different cultures and the uprise of cultural sensitivity amongst Generation Z helped me come to my research question: amidst the culturally sensitive generation, should companies continue to produce culturally inspired clothing? During my research, I found three prominent contributing factors that helped me answer my research question. Media and its increasing power plays the largest role, analyzing profits off of stolen cultural designs comes next, and lastly, understanding the history of cultural appropriation. Throughout the recent years, media has gained extreme influence on society. It has created a growing increase in consumer demand where new trends have been demanded and created faster than ever before. To keep up with these consumer demographics, fashion brands have adopted novel advertising techniques with the help of media. For example, Fashion Nova, a new fast fashion brand, was able to beat powerhouses such as Louis Vuitton with the help of influencer marketing. However, media has the ability to create this biased influence within its information, called the framing theory. Alsplat examined the framing theory in American magazines such as Vogue, Cosmopolitan, and Essence in regards to cornrows and its history. She found that Essence, being an African-American magazine, was able to avoid the pitfalls of the framing theory and had the most references of cornrows between 2013 and 2018. The second biggest factor is the unethical profits from cultural appropriation. Throughout my research, I found that assimilation has pivoted to a social issue, such as in Gogol's case from the namesake, where his assimilation is due to social pressures. This social assimilation allows for fashion brands to use their social privilege to diminish and erase the works of their foreign counterparts. This exact behavior is exemplified by Isabelle Marant, a French fashion designer. In 2015, Marant released a dress that bore many similarities to the huipil, a traditional garment created and worn by the indigenous Mixed women in Mexico, that sells for 300 Mexican pesos. Without any acknowledgement, credit, or financial compensation, Marant sold her replica dress for $365 American, equivalent to 15 times the original price. Marant proclaimed her design as bohemian appeal, erasing any cultural significance from the traditional garment while profiting off the same culture. The last significant factor is the history of cultural appropriation. The exchange of cultural ideas has been a part of society since the 4th century along the Silk Road. However, there was a sharp detour during the 16th century European imperialism, where many agreed to be the emergence of cultural appropriation. In 2017, the Oxford Dictionary added the term cultural appropriation, officially acknowledging victimized cultures of imperialism. Now, going back to my research question of should companies continue to produce culturally inspired clothing, the answer is an unequivocal yes. However, there must be a solution that helps diminish the disrespect between fashion brands and cultures. An annual conference between fashion brands and designers from marginalized cultures should be hosted. Fashion brands can host workshops that share their expertise in their industry and credit the cultures behind their successful designs, inviting a panel of designers to share their cultural heritage that inspired their products. Moreover, fashion brands should adopt a strong and clear diversity, equity, and inclusion policy. This solution has several benefits, including cultivating cross-cultural organic relationships. When done correctly, cultural inspiration is mutually beneficial to both fashion brands and communities of diverse culture. Bridget Vizina, member of the Center for International Governance Innovation, states that cultural inspiration promotes creative progress, human growth, and societal advancement, creating multicultural and non-segregated societies. Secondly, fashion conferences have already deemed to work. For example, Simon's, a large Canadian fashion brand, partnered with 8 Indigenous designers during Indigenous Fashion Week Toronto. The conference was widely positive for both parties, with Simon hailing it as a great opportunity to show the broader fashion public. Lastly, a strong DEI creates a stronger attractivity to broader demographics. With the increased inclusivity of other cultures, marketing and advertising will be targeted towards a larger demographic. However, some minor limitations include that the conference is strictly voluntary-based. Fashion brands might not like to participate unless they receive anything in return, such as growing or advertising their brand. This can be solved through extensive public relations, such as broadcasting the conference through social media and developing a #AnnualFashionConference. Moreover, enforcing a DEI does not necessarily mean that its policy is enforced throughout the workplace. Several brands choose to adopt the DEI in order to be recognized as a diverse brand, however, do not fully adopt its ideas and policies. And lastly, with the pandemic causing uncertainties, the in-person fashion conference relies on that face-to-face interaction. The conference host must adopt a strong networking team in order to create a seamless pivot towards online conferencing if needed. That concludes my presentation, and these are my references. Thank you.
My question for you is, did your research go in a different direction than you originally expected?
Yes, it actually did go in a completely different way than I originally expected, where I decided at first that I wanted to focus on specifically fast fashion brands and how they are the main cause of culture appropriation in the fashion industry. I first started off by reading a news article on CNN talking about Shein and its culture appropriation scandals and its apology on their website as well as on social media. However, with more research, I found more culture appropriation scandals in not only fast fashion brands, but as well as traditional brands such as Gucci, where they were faced with extreme brand losses after a black culturally appropriated balaclava, which sold for $800. So it completely went in a completely different approach than I expected, where I actually broadened my focus on not only fast fashion brands, but the fashion industry as a whole.
Thank you.
Excellent. What are the implications of your findings to your community?
So I believe that with the change in fashion after the culture appropriation, there might be some fear in fashion brands, where they might believe that they can never be culturally inspired, and they choose to never create new trends. Where, as I stated before, cultural appropriation and cultural inspiration and different cultures are the reason of new trends and the increase in consumer demand. And so I believe that some teenagers who are into the fashion industry or who like to express themselves with fashion might have trouble finding the fashion that they do enjoy and that was culturally inspired by other cultures with the change in the fashion industry.
Thank you.